this lesson is the third in the series of bar chords. So what I want you to do is make sure you've done and understood the first two lessons, and you can do everything within the first two lessons on bar chords. Don't jump into this one, even if you found the lessons before slightly basic. I think it's important to have all the knowledge before you approach something new. So this lesson is going to be on bar chords. So what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to apply what we've learned in the previous two lessons. So you should be at the point where you can play all the strings, hold down all the strings and have them sounding clear. So that's the point we're going to step off from. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play a chord. You've got one finger barring the whole guitar, and you've got your third finger, which I want you to play. So your bar is on the third fret, 1, 2, 3, and then your third finger I want you to put on the 5th fret of the 5th string, and then your pinky should go on the 5th fret of the 4th string, so it should look like that. Okay, so that chord is called a minor chord, and because this note here, the first note that you strike is a G note, the chord takes the name from the first note, so that chord is a G minor. So the important thing to note here is that that chord there is an E minor, and that chord there is a G minor. Now, the bar chord makes all your chords movable, so it's very powerful if you can do it. So that chord there is a G chord because the first note, sorry, an E chord, that's an E minor. So the first note you're playing is an E note, whereas here you've changed the root note and you've kept all the other notes in the same place relative to the bar. So with that, the bar is your nut. Okay, so that's, so here the nut is moved. The bar, basically the function of the bar in a bar chord is to move the nut. So relative to the nut or the bar, these notes are in the same place. That is the same shape as that. It's the same shape, so it's the same chord, but you've changed the root note. Okay, so that chord there is a G minor because it's played at the 3rd fret. Next chord I want to show you is a G minor 7. So that's your G minor. So what I want you to do now is just to take off your pinky. So this chord is easier than the the G minor. It's a G minor 7. So it's just like that. And it's just with your 3rd finger playing the 5th fret of the 5th string. So the first two chords, first one's a G minor, 2, 3, then take off your pinky. I'm always thinking ahead, I'm going to put my pinky back on. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, didn't sound right. 2, 3, 4, a bit more pressure this time. Okay, so you've always got to be listening to what you're doing. Didn't sound very good. 2, but I'm not stopping. 3, 4, and the next one. 2, 3, 4, just push harder with your thumb. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so those are your first two chords. So the first one is a G minor, second one is a G minor 7. And then what we're going to do is we're adding this finger here, it's the 2nd finger, we're adding it in on the 4th fret on the 3rd string, 4th fret 3rd string. So that chord is a G7. Again, just pushing down really hard, listening to all the notes. So that's G7, so you've got your G minor, your G minor 7, your G7, and the last one, if you put your pinky on just underneath the third finger on the fifth string, the fifth fret on the fourth string, that chord there is just a G chord. So you've got G minor 7, G7 and G. Now the reason they're all called G is simply because the first note that you strike is a G note, and then the shape tells you what flavour of chord they are, whether it's a minor chord or whether it's a minor 7 or whether it's just a 7 or whether it's just a G. So that's G, G7, G minor, G minor 7. So just practice them for a little while and practice changing between them. Listen to them, make sure that they all sound nice and clear. If they don't sound clear, make sure you correct them before moving on. So now what I'm going to do is, I want to talk to you about moving these chords about. When you move them, you can move them anywhere on the guitar, and the shape tells you what family the chord's from. So if you play that chord there, which was the G minor, if you play that in a different place on the guitar, for example, if we move it along 2 frets, that's still a minor chord, and it takes its name from the first note that you've played. So that's a minor chord. So that note there, we need to work out what that is. So if you reference the lesson, which is called naming all the notes on the guitar, if you couple these lessons together, it'll become very powerful. If you know all the root notes, then you can put the chord anywhere and make that chord. So that chord there will tell you is an A minor, because the first note you're striking, I know it's an A, maybe you don't know it's an A, but if you watch the other video, you'll be able, it'll teach you how to work out the notes on the guitar. If I play that chord there, it's an F minor. Okay, so we've got the 4 families of chords. That's an A minor. So if I take off my pinky, that chord becomes an A minor 7. Hope that makes sense, because it's the same shape as the G minor 7, but it's just at a different fret. If you add that finger in, it becomes an A7. If you add that finger in, it becomes an A. So if you learn those 4 shapes and you're able to move them about, it becomes really powerful. It's great because you know, instead of them being 4 chords, you now know 48 chords. So that means that you've divided the amount of learning you've got to do by 12 by understanding that all these chords are movable. So it's a huge step to take to be able to play bar chords. If you've understood this lesson, and I hope you have, you can now play 48 chords that you weren't able to play. You just need to move them about and learn the root notes. So I hope you can see how powerful that is, and in further lessons I'm going to teach you how to apply this further. But just for now I want you to concentrate on learning the shapes, learning their names, and I'm just going to talk a little bit now on how to move the chords. As I talked about in lesson 2, when we were moving just the bar, what happens is, if I'm moving from that chord to that chord, so that's a G minor to an A minor, all I'm doing is, the pressure's on just now, I'm holding on to the guitar firmly, so I'm pushing down all the notes, and then when I want to change I just relax the pressure and slide it along. I don't take it off and then rebuild it, I slide it. So pressure's on, pressure's off, I'm sliding it, pressure's back on, and I'm striking it. So there, pressure off, slide, pressure back on, strum. So that's a little bit about the coordination between the right hand and the left hand. So pressure's on, strum, pressure's off, move, make sure the pressure's back on before you strum. Okay, so that's that. So I'll just show you what will happen if I don't do that, if I don't get the coordination between the right and the left hand. Right, so pressure's on, slide it, and I've tried to strike it before I put the pressure on. So make sure you get the pressure on, then strike. So it's there. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So once you can move these chords, you know 48 different chords as opposed to just being 4. So I've taught you 4 chords, and I've also told you that you're able to move them. And then if you do the lesson on all the notes on the guitar and learn all the notes on the thickest string, you can play 48 chords. So for example, that one there, that chord there, that was a G7 at the 3rd fret, but it's now at the 2nd fret, so that's an F sharp 7. Okay, so if you see an F sharp 7 in a song, maybe on the internet, or somebody tells you to play an F sharp 7, beforehand you wouldn't know what they were talking about, but now you should know that that's a G7, so that's a 7 shape. So now all you need to do is to take the 7 shape, and instead of playing a G note first, you play an F sharp note first. So there's your F sharp. So if somebody said to play an A sharp 7, that's a G, you move it up 1, it becomes a G sharp, you move it up again, it becomes an A, you move it up again, it becomes an A sharp, and the families are 7. You want to be thinking in families, so every shape is a family. So we learned 4 shapes. We learned just the normal G shape, we learned the G minor shape, we learned the G minor 7 shape, and we learned the G7 shape. And we learned them at the 3rd fret. That note there, I'll tell you, is a G. So because we play a G first, the chords are G chords, and the shape tells you what the family is. Okay, so this lesson was on bar chords, and hopefully that was helpful. If you've got any questions or you don't understand, just leave a comment under the video, and I'll try and clear up any issues or misunderstandings. And if I think of anything else that I've missed out of this lesson, then I'll add a comment myself. Please give me as much feedback as you want. It's very helpful. I'm trying to improve my lessons, and if you don't understand them, then it's because I haven't explained it well enough, and I'll try and improve the lesson based on feedback. Okay, so that's lesson 3 on bar chords.